everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Star Trek Super-Skill Pinball. Now, Super-Skill Pinball is a series that I like a lot. This is the, I believe, third in this series that I've played. There's still one, a Christmas one I've not played, but this is a Star Trek one. I'm kind of ambivalent on Star Trek. I've watched every show that's on here. I've watched a lot of the Star Trek. The Next Generation is still my favorite, but there's different Star Trek stuff I like, don't like. You know, I'm not a Star Trekkie, but I enjoy it. So that's kind of an interesting theme for me. I do love Super-Skill Pinball. So let me show you a little bit about this game, and we'll be back. So let's catch you up. If you've never played any of the Super-Skill Pinballs, you're going to have a ball that's going to be bouncing around, just like pinball. You'll have the bottom of your board and the top. Now, sometimes, in the case, this is the beginner board here, the top isn't going to matter much other than a spot where you will keep track of the points you get, which you'll fill in these stars. In this case, that's all it is. But on a turn, one person's rolling the dice, same person can roll dice the whole game. Everyone's going to pick one of those numbers. So you'll start up here, you shoot it out, ball one comes out up here, and I rolled a 1 or a 2. Well, the only place I can go to is here. So I hit that, and I will mark this one, scribbling this one in, and then we roll again, and you always go down. So now I go to a 3 or a 4, so there's a 3 there. There's 2 3s and 2 4s, but I go there. And now I roll, and normally I would have to go down, but if I had rolled a 5 or 6, this could bounce around and just keep going here, but instead I'm going to come down, and I'll hit the 1 over here, which gives me a point. It also gave me a point when I hit this one. And once you get to the bottom, and you hit these flippers, you'll then use that flipper to hit it all the way up. The next time you roll a number, let's say it's on the red flipper, I roll a 2 or 3, I can go to any red 2 or 3. So there's some over here. There's also some over here, although I have to get the 1 first, then the 2, then the 3. And you can get a whole lot of points if you can get up farther on there. And that's it. You're just going to keep going up and down. Every time it comes down, you're filling in some numbers on these flippers. If it comes down and there's no numbers to fill in, then the ball is going to go out. And when the ball goes out, you'll start with ball 2. And you might be on ball 2 while everyone else is on ball 1. And eventually you will finish all 3 of your balls. And at that point, whoever has the most points wins. When a ball comes out, you're going to look, and you'll notice all these spots on the board. Some of them have filled in lines. Others have dotted lines. The dotted lines are always erased in between balls. And that's important because you need these flippers open. These other ones are only erased when they're all filled. So when these are all filled, I can then get a skill shot. So I might take a skill shot 3. And that means in the future, no matter what's rolled here, I can pick 3 instead of one of those. You can also nudge. If you roll a 2 and a 6, I'm like, I really wanted a 3. So I put the 3 here, and I nudged by 1. And the next turn, if I would roll whatever numbers I rolled, you count the difference, and if that difference is greater than the amount I nudged by, then I tilt and the ball falls down. When you fill in all these over here, you get one of these bonuses. You fill in all these, you get one of these bonuses. These give points. These you can bounce around, and when they're all filled, they come off. And that's pretty much it for this table. It's a pretty basic table. On the other side, we have the tribbles, the trouble with tribbles. This one you will be using the top of the board to keep track of your tribbles. And you'll notice you'll get points based on where these end up. And the most points are having a lot of tribbles, but not too many. You get too many, and then you start having to fill things in, and you're going to lose your ball more quickly. So there's a few other things around here, and you can see this is a much bigger, more complex board with different things going off in different spots that are going to add and subtract from the tribbles. So then that's the third out of our different boards, or the second. Our third board here is Lower Decks, the new kind of spoof cartoon. And this one has a very unique premise in that the board itself is going to go back and forth. So when you're hitting on this, you're going to go down, and then when it comes to the other side, you'll flip it around, and now you're hitting with the green and the purple flipper. In real life, these are amazing boards, folks, and I really, really like them. So I was glad to see this brought into play. And then the final board here, the fourth board, is the Borg attack. For the first 2 rounds of the game, you're simply playing here, and you're collecting ships and shields and proton torpedoes. And then your third ball is only on the top part of the board, where you'll be bouncing it between the Borg cube back and forth from ships. As you start here at the bottom and try to build up, You hit a green number, you can't hit that number again on the board, but you can modulate your phasers. This is very, very nerdy Star Trek stuff, but it's how the game actually works. And so the third round, you're just trying to stay alive here and get as many points as possible. If you destroy the board cube, you erase everything and start again. Another board cube shows up. And that's it. Whoever has the highest score between all the players is the winner. If you have multiple, if you're playing this solo, which I play a lot, you're just trying to beat your last score. There's a few more rules, obviously, and different things I didn't mention, but hopefully that gives you an overview of how the game works. I like these boards a lot. They definitely flow. The first one is very basic. It's as basic, almost not quite the same as the original game board, I think, but it's pretty close. The Trouble with Tribbles, I think they get more enjoyable. The Trouble with Tribbles and the Lower Decks, which is funny because I don't like the Lower Decks cartoon. I know some people like that, but the 4 board that's flipping around, I find that to be really interesting. And the Tribbles, I like trying to collect some Tribbles, but not too many. Those go back and forth. Those are my 2 favorite boards. The Borg Attack is a fine board, but this end game, I guess it's supposed to be like, ooh, it's exciting, you're fighting the Borg. And I think if this was a real pinball and I was in here bouncing around it again, that would be fun. As it is, it was okay. It almost stops being pinball and starts feeling like Breakout, as you're hitting the bricks and destroying them. That's what it felt like a little bit. It's not bad. I just didn't like it as best. I would rank it I would rank the boards, my favorite probably being Tribbles, then Lower Decks, because I really like the rotating board a lot, then the Borg, and then finally the original one, if only because the original one is just very much a basic board moving around. But I like the system a lot. Now, I mentioned solo play. That is the majority of how I play Super-Skill Pinball these days. I think it's a lot of fun. It's fine to play with other people, but you are concentrating your own board, and the only thing really is you're comparing scores at the end of the game. In this one, 4 more boards. If you like the original one, you're going to be able to play this very easily because you're just bouncing around on all these different boards. And I got to say, it's really cool. So, to that end, I'm giving this an 8.5, just like I like the original one that much. The Star Trek theme works. I thought they did a good job. Even though I said I wasn't a huge fan of the Borg one compared to the other 2, it still is thematic. Like I said, this modulation to the phasers things cracked me up. And the fact that the Tribbles are cool, but too many of them, well, then you need to transport them over to the Klingons, right? So it's an interesting setup for very different things. Especially, I was really surprised to see Lower Decks as one of the boards, but I guess that makes sense. One thing, pinball, I've always been fascinated by pinball. They'll make a theme out of all kinds of things, and it doesn't really matter. You might be like, I'm surprised to see that's a pinball table, to the point where you play so much pinball, you're no longer surprised to see a table of something because anything can be a pinball table. So here we got Star Trek. So Star Trek fans rejoice, roll and write fans rejoice, and pinball fans rejoice. A nice little combo here. So that's Super-Skill Pinball Star Trek, or Star Trek, I don't know what order that comes in. Anyway, I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time.